We got a lot to say, so we might as well get started. Captain America: Brave New World just had its first official opening weekend, which technically went from Thursday to Monday. They obviously include the Thursdays in the Friday preview, but today is President's Day, I believe, pretty sure. And so they've extended it all the way till Monday. And so with that in mind, the official numbers for Captain America: Brave New World's weekend are that it opens to 100 million domestically and 192.4 worldwide. Okay? So we got to dig into these numbers just a little bit more. But I will say, just when you hear that number, close to 200 million worldwide for an opening weekend, it sounds pretty good. So I wonder what you think about that in chat. I've seen a lot of different people on social media. Social media is such a fascinating grouping of individuals. There are some people that are like, hey, that it made its whole budget back. This is actually great. I hope people understand that Marvel fans want more Sam Wilson as Captain America. And then other people are pointing out all the holes in the numbers and saying that it's actually not a good situation. So let's get into it. What do I think? Well, interestingly enough, if you look at the actual article put out in the Hollywood Trades, you will find a lot of interesting things. Okay, so first of all, the title says, Captain America box office Brave New World opens to a bullish 100 million in the U.S., 192 globally. That's pretty positive right off the bat, right? Bullish, right? That's like crypto language and whatnot, so pretty positive. The subtitle, though, says, the superhero pick landed ahead of expectations despite receiving a B- CinemaScore, the worst grade bestowed on any title in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Put a pin in that. We will come back to that because, yeah, for sure, that's important. That's important to talk about. Okay. Captain America: Brave New World is looking presidential after all, as Marvel Studios attempts to reboot the franchise with an entirely new cast. This year's first tentpole is reporting a 4-day domestic opening of $100 million over the long Valentine's Day / President's Day weekend, including 88.4 for the 3 days. And the numbers should shift again on Sunday, but either way, it's coming in ahead of expectations. Okay, so let's just start there. This is technically coming in ahead of expectations, even on the 3-day. I think we saw numbers as low as 80, maybe even 79, and we saw numbers as high as like 115, 110, 105. So this beats the low end of those expectations, and it's pretty much like a 90 million, which I think is good overall for the 3-day. And then I guess it just kind of depends on how you're going to think of it. Like, you're going to give them the 4-day? I mean, I guess it technically is a holiday. And so, sure, I could see that. And if you give them the 4-day, 100 million, yeah, that's good. It looks good. Getting to the century mark looks good. Getting very close to 200 million, I think looks good. 92.4 million internationally. But I do have to say that it's weird that I believe it was actually Deadline's article. Maybe they also talk about it here as well. But I know in Deadline's article, they discuss a number that's $425 million. Okay? And the reason that number is being brought up is because the reported budget, which even in the Hollywood Reporter, they talk about the budget. The reported budget is $180 million. That's what's being reported. By the way, real quick chat, do you believe that? Yes or no? Just put it into the chat. I'll take a peek over at chat as I continue to talk about the news. But just straight up, man. And maybe if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're just in your car or something, just whisper it out loud. Do you believe that? Yes or no? Budget of $180 million. So if we believe it, and I think, technically we kind of have to, Disney saying it publicly, that's their, that's their statement officially of what it is. Then at 425 million worldwide, the movie breaks even. Okay? And in the Deadline article, they make mention of the fact that the movie only needs to get to 425 million total to break even. And I can kind of feel, just because I've been doing this for a while, right? And I can kind of see how the Hollywood machine works and, how they couch things and how they signal things, etc. Kind of seems like all the trades are saying, yeah, this is good, and if it just gets to 425 million, they break even, no loss, and that sort of secures maybe a better future for Sam Wilson for Anthony Mackie as Captain America, right? So that's what I feel is happening within the numbers. But here's the thing. Regardless of all of that, and regardless of reading the tea leaves and, checking out the signaling, I think this is a good opening. I think there's pretty much no way around it. You have to say this is a good opening. And as long as it doesn't completely collapse, from here, I think they're going to be fine. That's the way I would describe it. As long as it doesn't completely collapse from here, I think they're going to be fine. However, and unfortunately, I think it might completely collapse. We don't know for sure. And the second weekend is going to really, really show us what is going on with this movie, what's going on with the public, how are people feeling about this movie, what's the actual word of mouth look like. And this takes us back to the thing we put a pin in earlier, and this would be the CinemaScore. Okay? So, lowest CinemaScore in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Lower than a lot of DCEU movies, getting into the territory of the Sony movies. That's the CinemaScore. Now, let me kind of explain what the CinemaScore is, and let me explain why it's such an industry standard. Maybe a lot of you know this, but CinemaScore is polling. It is spot polling that is done around the United States on the opening night of the movie, so Friday night. And it is done with a bunch of actual human beings, and it's all done on paper, so it can't be gamed, it can't be cheated. It's a really good survey that gives really good information to Hollywood and to us, the public, about how fans are feeling about the movie. Okay? And as we've said before, right, you might be surprised to find that a B- is the lowest score in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you might be surprised that a B- is a really, really concerning score. But it is. And I think part of the reason is because people that go spend money on a movie are more often than not very likely to be more positive on the movie. Okay? So if you can get people that just paid hard-earned money to give you an aggregate or an average score of a B-, almost dipping into the C's, that should just really show you how divided audiences are on this. And here's like the objective truth about what that score means. This movie on opening night, Brave New World, it disappointed many more Marvel fans than any other Marvel movie had in the history of the franchise. That is objectively true. That's what that means. That's what the CinemaScore means. It means more than Quantumania, more than Thor: The Dark World, more than Age of Ultron, more than Love and Thunder, more than Eternals, more than any other Marvel movie under the MCU banner that has ever come before. This movie on opening night left more fans, more people that went to see the movie opening night, disappointed than any other Marvel movie before it. And unfortunately, the CinemaScore is used to forecast how well a movie will perform going into week 2, and going into week 3, etc. It's not like a rule of law. It is not like an absolute certainty that if it's really low, it means there won't be legs for the film. But it's a very bad data point. So, as I said, when you look at this opening box office for Captain America, decent. Seriously, decent. And as long as it doesn't completely collapse, I think the movie will be fine. Meaning it'll break even, it'll make profit, maybe get to $500 or $600 million, maybe get to $7 million in a dream scenario, right? But the unfortunate data point here, the sort of really weird elephant in the room, is that CinemaScore. Okay? And we will have to wait and see what that translates to in weekend 2. If it's a really steep decline, because here's the thing that's crazy about Quantumania. Quantumania opened higher than this movie, and it fell like 77% or something into weekend 2. Guys, that movie didn't even make it to 500 million worldwide, right? Like Quantumania. And that's insane considering what it opened at. Okay. And so what happened with Quantumania was even though it almost gets, I think it's like 460 or something like that, it gets close enough to 5 that you're like, those are like Venom 3 numbers. And Sony was pleasantly surprised with like Venom 3, et cetera, et cetera. The reason it was so catastrophic for Marvel was because it opened so much higher. They sold it as like an Avengers villain entry point thing, and it collapsed so spectacularly that like it doesn't even get to 500 million. So if that happens for Brave New World, this movie might not even get to 400 million. Like, is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, if it takes the same trajectory that Quantumania did, then unfortunately it is very possible this movie doesn't even get a 4 in front of it. And that would be really, really bad. Now, I think if you go back to the trades and we go back to that number of 425, you can kind of see the game being played here, where they've basically just made it that instead of needing 5, 6, or 7 to be considered respectable, Marvel and the trades are already projecting what would be the number. And so now everybody's like, yo, we just need to get to 425, which is weird. It feels like we're moving the goalpost a little bit there. But credit where credit is due. If they do that, they will be able to have headlines that say it didn't lose money, et cetera, et cetera. And I suppose that's good.